Okay, guys, are we ready? This is the closest I can come to a bona fide bovine. Okay, so who knows what's next? Who knows for sure what's going to happen tomorrow? How about this afternoon? 2 minutes from now? Let's see. Okay. We can find that one out really shortly. Okay, good. So, let's consider for a moment the way things have come to be. Fascinating how it is that in ways and in many ways, beyond the collective recognition, humanity has been and is being moved in a direction that a very small group of individuals want to have happen. Any of you who are parents, you know that there was a time when doubt entered your awareness so far as the best way to raise your children. And even though you tried to put on the smile and make sure that baby never got it, they got it anyhow. Because you see, we transmit one to another whatever energies we're generating, regardless of how we may try to disguise them or completely change them. Okay, I mentioned the word doubt, and the reason I did is because it is a preconditioning for chronic fear. Now, please do understand that I'm not talking about the genuine acute fear of a threatening circumstance, because that has a natural purpose. I'm talking about chronic fear. It's debilitating. It's an impediment that restricts keen perception and excellent performance. Anybody who's operating under chronic fear probably is at least 70% unconscious of it, and it's only when it rises up to that other level to where, yikes, then you're consciously aware of it. Now, we also know that with doubt and chronic fear, we can have various attitudes that diminish success. Hesitation, ignorance, skepticism, and withholding attention. At its worst, this becomes a lack of acceptance, false certainty, and possibly even the persecution of others. You getting this so far? Okay. So doubt, fear, and skepticism are predominant in today's culture of stressful overwhelm. Welcome to the 21st century. Okay, so now let's talk about this elite group. Let's call them the powerful. They thrive on fear. Okay? Fear in the mass consciousness is a powerful food for these elite controllers. It is used to manipulate people, to seek help, to counter that which they are caused to fear. This is called the Hegelian dialectic, and it's based upon problem, reaction, and solution. These elite controllers have guided the masses to accept incremental erosion of freedom and increasing tyranny. They use subtle and indirect methods such as debt, ideology, and predictive mind control entertainment and security threats, as well as major direct actions like false flag disasters and war. Now, if you haven't heard about any of these, you haven't been on the planet for a while. They're happening right now in our midst. So there is also consideration of false evidence appearing real. Because much of what goes on in this world is not as it seems. This world? This world? You mean I'm actually talking about here? I didn't just pick up 1984 and start reading a chapter on it? Okay, so let's consider some of the things that we have doubt and fear about. Death! Anyone afraid of dying?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, you're gonna. Okay? It happens to everyone. Death is a part of life. Life is a part of death. Get over it. I mean, if you move around with a chronic fear regarding dying, you are actually aiding and abetting your death, but probably in one of the most horrible of all ways, instead of just walking down in front of a semi and that's it. Okay. Did you know that almost everyone in the history of the world since 1900 has croaked? You thought you were going to live forever? See, this is the amazing thing, is that we so get caught up in this chronic fear syndrome that we fail to realize that people are dropping off like flies as we're fearing it. It's happening. But at the same time, more flies are being born. I mean, more people are being born. Okay, so we take this into account, and then we go to the thing that I think probably bothers people everywhere so much, and that's time. Time. So, really, only the present exists as a point of conscious awareness. The past is whatever memory portrays and the mind determines. That's the past. The future? It's a fantasy projection based on past experiences and, we'll falter here, creative thinking. Okay? You can undo that one if you'd like, but anyhow, it was in there just so you feel good. That in case you do engage in some kind of thinking, that it might also be interpreted as creative thinking. Okay. All right, so now to the brain, a memory will stir up the same chemicals as an actual occurrence, so that to the brain is the same thing that's happening. So then we come to this world that we're living in, that we get so torqued and concerned about as if it were the only reality that exists. Do you realize that physics has determined that there may actually be alternate realities occurring simultaneously in the space that is internally as vast as the universe? I mean, that means that what goes on between left ear and right ear, you might just stumble onto an alternative reality that will have so much more appeal than this current one that you'll leave this one entirely and live that one and perhaps even benefit this one because of the change that you've made inside yourself. Now, you see, that's getting to something here that our personal reality, your reality, my reality, is very susceptible to being guided either by our own intuition or manipulated by those who have developed methods of mind control. So it really comes down to this, you see, and this is a really important point. It is by our changing habits of thought and behavior, by our intention and action, that we change our attitude and ultimately our own neuronet, which means, the receptors in ourselves. We have pathways in our brains that most of us, because we are so habituated into thinking and believing and feeling certain ways, we are unconscious to the fact that we've created these pathways and that we can replace them and do so by intention and then action. That if we stick with it, stay with it, and do it, it's actually going to create a new neural pathway that will replace the old one as long as we continue to use, travel, walk, move upon this new neural pathway. Otherwise, we can be sure that the elite group I was speaking of, they're going to do their absolute damnedest to control us, to manipulate us because of their own agenda. So, what's this big problem about death? Part of it has to do with our ego. You see, our ego is an organizing function of consciousness, and it wants itself to continue. So if it sees us making any kind of changes where its position is feeling threatened, it's going to jump in there and try to change things. Okay, so now the powers that be realize that the manipulation of the individual ego through a combination of intelligence reduction by chemicals and frequencies, major fear events, threat and intimidation will prompt fear that retards awareness and action. I don't know if you've ever noticed it or not, but if you're operating in a chronic state of fear and depression, you aren't thinking clearly. And you'll notice that you're pretty much in a repeating cycle. So this is just to give you an indication so that you can begin to pay attention in yourself to yourself and begin to make the changes that you realize are going to benefit you. Ultimately, we can and we will move beyond ego. We can change our reality, and we do it by changing our attitude from doubt and fear to forgiveness and love. You see, we have to make a shift here. We have to get something that replaces what's causing us problems. With doubt and fear, it's a very powerful and profound change when you start inserting forgiveness and love. Because then what happens is we enter into the phase of transformation in the face of challenge. And by God, don't doubt it for a moment. We are at that time now so far as the world is concerned. We are right now at a place where we have reached a climatic point. Life is in the process of being transformed. Yet, please do realize that the situation is not anything to fear. But how do we prepare for whatever changes may come? The first thing is you move beyond doubt. You open yourself up and you begin to embrace the realization that life is more than just what's happening on this planet. I know we tend to think of this planet as the ultimate of all realities, and for some people, it's the only reality that exists. The rest of the stars are out there just for our entertainment at night. And forget about any other planets being there, and life on those planets? Oh, absurd. I mean, God would have let us know, right? Okay. So we move beyond doubt. We move beyond doubt by realizing that whatever you want to call it, that is able to create such a magnificent planet and inhabits it with all of the different varieties that are here. And that habit just kind of like hung there between Mars and Venus. Was that a chance throw? What happened? That this intelligence also is within us. And it not only is it within us, but it is us. Then we can become fearless. Less fear. So that no matter what serious changes occur, conscious living will go on. Growth and improvement in awareness will continue to manifest. So that the next time you meet one of these out there, you can look it straight in the eye and say, "Okay, Wranglers, head them out, far beyond fear and doubt." Thank you. For more information about the Metaphysical Church of Enlightenment or the Rodin Foundation, please go to our website at www.rodin.org. If you have been inspired by the revelations shared in these podcasts, please donate to the Rodin Foundation's ongoing efforts to help others help themselves at www.rodin.org/donate.